right. It is now my pleasure to introduce Scott Hanselman. He shows up on pretty much every developer-related video and blog that you will ever see regarding Microsoft. So welcome, Scott Hanselman. How's it going?
It's very good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, nice to be here. I'm loving your Clippy shirt, first and foremost.
Iconic brand. We appreciate
Of course.
Clippy.
I was more partial to the wizard myself.
Oh, the little Microsoft agent wizard person?
The little blue hat. So
Microsoft
cute.
Bob.
Absolutely. So build is crazy. There's a lot going on, but unfortunately production tells us we only have like 5 minutes. So let's do the Spark Notes version. Let's start with Satya's keynote. What'd you think? A lot of updates.
So I was actually sitting with some of the early in career folks that we have. We have this ERG, this internal group of early in career folks. So we were all sitting watching the keynote, and we felt like we needed to pause and like look for Easter eggs and stuff. So not only some of the great things that he was talking about in his slides, but we noticed that there was an Altair computer on his back.
I did.
Did you see that?
I did catch that, and I think people in chat caught that as well, yep.
Yeah, that was really cool. But one of the things that I thought was particularly interesting from a historical context that I thought that we should maybe talk about was he shows this one slide where he goes CPU, GPU, NPU, and then Azure. Like, do you remember when you got your first GPU and how your computer changed, right?
Right.
Right, so you've got your CPU, which is your central processing unit that's really generalized, but then that graphics processing unit is a dedicated kind of a computer within a computer, right, for just graphics. Now we're seeing things like Project Volterra that has that NPU, that neural processing unit, that's going to do AI. But then the idea of Azure as a co-processor is really, really interesting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seeing that evolution especially must be really fun. Like, I don't know, when was your first build? Like, do you remember what your first build was like and the announcements?
I think it was called PDC. It was called the Professional Developers Conference at that time. And I want to say it was somewhere like 1993 or 1994. And even before that, there were times where we had PCs and we would add a co-processor so we could do math. We would add a GPU so that we could do graphics. The idea of Azure as the kind of the world's AI supercomputer that could go and make things faster, I think is really, really powerful. What that means then, if I'm connected, things are just going to get better. If there's some AI workload or some model, I could have a local version of that model, and then I could have the Azure computer as a co-processor. And we see things like that with like xCloud, where Azure is, in this case, the GPU for your phone, as you can play, Xbox games.
Yeah, that is pretty sweet. I mean, my first build was like 5 years ago, and even then, just seeing that short evolution of where we've come is really exciting. Like for me, like seeing GitHub Copilot was really cool. Not having to worry about all the nitty-gritties of how to implement a particular function and focusing on the bigger picture and whatever it is I'm trying to accomplish with the project.
That's a really great point that you make, that idea of focusing on the bigger picture. We're trying to make it fun, let the computer do the boring stuff, right? Yeah, you and I have talked about this because you work on Visual Studio, that if there's something that the computer can do that you don't like doing, that's repetitive, let the machine do it, right?
Right.
So with something like Copilot, it's like, I want an optimized way to traverse this tree or to loop through this dictionary. I know that there's a best case scenario to do it. I could look it up in a book. I could pull it out of my memory banks. I could go to Stack Overflow, or I could go to someone's blog. But Copilot then becomes this co-processor for the human.
Yeah.
That could then help us create models, AI models, ML models, that could then potentially be run by another co-processor, which is Azure itself, which is super powerful.
Awesome. I absolutely agree with you. And because 5 minutes is not enough time, do you want to plug your after hours show, which honestly just sounds like a nightclub in like film noir? Honestly, what is this?
So, when you have a whole day full of all these great pre-records and all these great keynotes, a lot of stuff, it's an overwhelming amount of content. And honestly, towards the end of the day, I think people get tired. They need a little burst of energy. Now, one of the things that I've tried to do over my time at Microsoft is go anywhere that my badge will allow me to let people see how the stuff gets made, right? So they let us wander around with cameras, and we got to meet different execs, we got to meet early in career folks, we got to meet the actual PMs and devs that are working on the features that you get to see, and we talked to them, and we took them into new and interesting places. We went axe throwing, we had ninja stars, we went to a tiny house, we went to a 3D printing workshop, we did a ton of stuff, and we're gonna see that at Build After Hours, and I think it starts around 2:30-ish Pacific.
Awesome. I am so excited to see this because I have no idea what axe throwing or tiny houses or ninja stars have to do with developing.
We're going to tie it together.
That is great stuff. I also want to give a shout out to your co-host, Felicia Shaw. She's great as well, and I'm excited to check it out.
Yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah. So, Scott, thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I can't wait to see After Hours. And you can catch up with all of Scott's After Hours shenanigans later today.